Here's a photograph of a paper map showing where we're camping in Kananaskis country. Interesting shafts of light are shining through a storm cloud that's passing overhead. The sky has now cleared, and we have an interesting view of some majestic mountains. Look at the interesting light in the sky. I think it might be what is known as a sundog, but I'm not sure. What a nice, majestic mountain peak. Notice all the rock layers in this mountain. Arriving at camp, Pete picks up a camping permit. Nicole gives her approval of the campsite. Liz has claimed this spot for us and dares anybody to try and take it. When it comes to car rides, Pete claims to have an open-door policy. I accepted your invitation, Pete. Let's go. Nicole says not today. I have to set up the tent. Nicole looks in the bag and says, "Do you expect me to live in this puny thing?" Meanwhile, Liz witnesses Pete signing his life away on the camping permit. Pete is busy filling out the camping permit, and Liz is trying to hold herself together. This is an interesting plant. I believe it might be called a fireweed. Pete and Rudiger. That majestic mountain top is seen from our campsite. A spider is spinning a web between my truck mirror and the door bracket and is determined to share our campsite. This bug landed on our tent. I'm not sure what it is, but it might be some sort of a tick. It's about the size of a grain of rice. We do live a sheltered life here at camp. Liz is busy doing the supper dishes. A small airplane flies over our camp. Once the sun went down, it got pretty quiet around camp. The only excitement was Liz reading her book by the light of the kerosene lantern. A rather unusual plant is in full bloom with beautiful flowers. This cluster of flowers are extremely tiny. Each petal is only about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch long. We did the hike suggested by this sign. Pause the video if you wish to read the content. I believe these are wild purple daisies. Liz thinks she's leading us down the garden path, but we're actually hiking the Eau Claire Trail. More pretty wildflowers. These interesting flowers look like insects. Here's a buttercup in bloom. Here's an interesting wildflower. Wild raspberries. A rotting tree stump lies on the forest floor. These wild berries are extremely bitter. The buds on this plant tell me there's about to be a bloom explosion. Notice the shape of the leaves, like needles. Notice all the moss growing on these tree branches. Fallen trees lay in the Kananaskis River. I think this plant might be a baby fern. Moss grows around this rotting tree stump. The hollow stump might be a nest for a small animal. The hole at the edge of this old stump might be the entrance to an animal's den within the stump. A fallen tree trunk lays on the forest floor. The hollowed-out area under this fallen tree trunk might have been made as an animal's den. This stump looks like some alien drinking sap out of a tree branch. The pathway takes us alongside the Kananaskis River. A patch of fungus makes its home on the trunk of a fallen tree. Some seed pods ready to take flight. Notice the needle-like leaves on this plant. A variety of fungi cover this fallen tree. Liz has found something interesting to photograph. Notice the blemishes on the bark of this small tree. I believe it has a disease or some sort of parasite. A cluster of red mushrooms has taken up residence on the root ball of this fallen tree. These are really tiny. Compare them to the size of the pine needles on the ground. Notice the wonderful variety of plants living on the forest floor. An interesting mushroom grows on the forest floor. This thing is the size of a dinner plate. I wonder what circumstances caused this tree to grow in such an unusual fashion. I am guessing the arrowhead scars are the result of some hiker's knife in the distant past. Notice all the blemishes under the bark. I believe this tree is probably seriously diseased. Several different species of fungus are living on this fallen tree. Two mature birch trees stand tall in the tangled forest. A bird's nest sits abandoned in the tangle of branches. A cluster of birch trees thrive among the predominantly pine forest. Nature's corkscrew. The knothole left behind by a broken limb bleeds sap down the trunk of a tree. Stalks of wild grass in full bloom. The flower petals are extremely small. They are only about a 1/16 of an inch or 1 millimeter long. Here's an interesting plant. Goop oozes from the bark of this fallen tree. There are blisters filled with the same substance that look like they are ready to erupt. I suspect tree disease, but I'm not sure. A tender young plant competes for survival in the forest. Notice the heart-shaped plateau on this mountain. Interesting geography. These berries are ripe for the picking. I remember tasting one years ago, and they are extremely bitter. This is a pretty rock. A rose bush with not yet ripe rose hip. Notice the thorns. What a fascinating rock. There are at least 4 distinct fracture lines that have been infused with a completely different mineral. Take a minute to study this cluster of rocks. They all have interesting grain patterns. In the foreground, a Canadian thistle has bloomed and gone to seed. It appears the parent plant is dying. No loss there. I hate thistles. And in the background, orange lichens grow abundantly on this rock. Look at the amazing markings on this rock. Notice the fold in the rock at the right side of the layers. I believe this proves the mountains were violently formed in the distant past. 2 different species of bee compete for nectar on this plant. Parasites have attacked the leaves on this plant, leaving it looking sick. Here's an interesting plant. And when it blooms, the flowers are beautiful. A hot spark from last night's campfire melted a big hole in a folding chair. It can now be patented as a folding toilet seat. The trio of tents. A small cloud passes overhead, giving the sky a nice contrast. A woodpecker hammers for his breakfast. Pete and Nicole took us for a sightseeing drive to explore the area. This is the staging area for a 9-kilometer hike along the mountain ridge, ending at a mountaintop hut. Here's a contour map of the area. Pause if you wish to study it. A Kananaskis country map. We start another hike. Rudiger playfully runs as we hike along the pathway. A beautiful butterfly lands on wild daisies. This vine is bent on growing tall. A beautiful Indian paintbrush plant in full bloom. Nicole says, "Hey, I'm a big girl. I can do this." Rudiger thought he could walk on water. He quickly had that sinking feeling. Pete can't walk on water either. Nicole takes a leap of faith. One successful leap for Nicole, one failed attempt by Rudiger. Pete practices breakdancing. Here's a beautiful, majestic mountain. 2 trees tower above the surrounding forest. 2 random hikers show us how to properly cool your feet after a long walk. Rudiger just found his calling. He's going to be a rock hound. This tree says, "When I grow up, I want to touch the sky." The sun illuminates the changing colors in these leaves. After everybody got their feet wet, Then we find the bridge. Nicole says to Pete, "It's only an airplane flying over. Do I really have to hide under the bridge?" Nicole says, "I'm not sure about this. What if there's leeches in the water?" Pete replies, "Take Rudiger with you for protection during your river crossing." Pete documents Nicole's successful river crossing. Rudiger says, "Ha ha, catch me if you can." Tag, "You're it, Mum." Rudiger says, "Mommy, leave me alone. I'm a big boy. I can cross the river all by myself." Mommy didn't tell me the water was this cold. Pete says, "Rudiger, don't bug me. I need to get a picture of Mommy if she falls in the water." This river crossing isn't so bad once your feet get so numb that you can no longer feel the sharp rocks. Here's a rare sighting of a widowed Sasquatch as she emerges from the forest. Here's a pretty flower. Here's an interesting wildflower. Notice the curl on the petals. The tree says, "I might be dead and slightly stooped over, but I'm still taller than you. If you come any closer, I'll run down my burrow where you can't see me." I replied, "I don't need to approach you. I've got a zoom lens." Very distinct inclined rock layers make this mountain stand out. Purple daisy wildflowers. A variety of plants make up nature's flower garden. Waterfalls fill this pond, both in the foreground and the background. A deep gorge splits the mountain. Notice the caves in the gorge. Water follows many channels in this rocky creek bed. Here's a pretty waterfall. Notice the second smaller waterfall behind the tree on the left. Notice the fascinating pattern in these rocks. Here's an interesting mountaintop. Notice the interesting swirls of one type of rock into another slightly darker stone. I suspect there was at one time a molten rock infusion from below. Three mountains converge to form a deep valley. They heard a rumor the grass is greener on the other side of the road. Let's check it out, guys. Power lines cut through the mountains. First, there was one. And then there were two. You can't catch me, 'cause I'll just run down my hole. I hope your camera's so heavy it gives you a backache. Here, look at my butt. Oops, did I just say that out loud? My mom caught me being rude to the photographer, and now I have to do push-ups. And if that wasn't bad enough, now I'm grounded. A bird entertains us with a little dance routine. Mom, how long do I have to hold up this post? This is a mountain grizzly. What are you doing over here? I told you to hold up that post. Some trees are bent on reaching the forest canopy. Look at the twisted rock layers in this mountain. A glass tree is molded inside this liquor bottle. This one's a keepsake for sure. Patty started making faces at me, so I've come up with some captions to fit the facial expressions. Before we begin, I would like it to be understood that Patty is a sweet, kind, compassionate young lady, and my narration is in no way intended to insult or defame Patty. So let's share a few laughs while understanding that my comments are intended in the most loving way possible. You can't make me smile. I'm still not smiling. Bah, humbug! You broke my concentration. If I sit just right, I can do this. Oops, I just farted. Maybe nobody noticed. Everyone is moving away. Really, people? Everybody lets one slip once in a while. Yikes, that just reeks. Oh, why did I have to do that? Somebody help! I need oxygen. I think I had too much tequila. For some reason, I can't breathe. I wish this thing would hurry up and dissipate. Ah, it's finally gone. Oh, patty cake, my. You might have cleared out the campground, but we still love you. Hey everybody, I think it's safe to come back now. And the good news is, I cleared out all the mosquitoes. If everybody comes back, I'll sing opera for you. Just kidding. Have a great night, everybody.